So perhaps to start, let us start by encouraging the offender not to be an offender.
True.
So that if you don't do things that you're not supposed to be doing, that are going to get into trouble.
Yes.
Because at the same time, we shouldn't paint our cops as... We shouldn't propagate the narrative that they are simply out to get us all the time.
Yes, yes.
Because for one, I don't want to imagine a country where we don't have law enforcement, we don't have law and order, we don't have a national police system, and we can't survive a day. So they really do so much to keep us safe. They do so much to instill law and order within society. Given there are going to be one or two, like we said, each market has its people.
Yeah.
There are going to be one or two rogue officers.
Yes.
And the good thing that happens these days is that citizens are more active, citizens are more vocal. And there are now even more institutions where you're able to report and get justice. It's not like the previous years where the police were law unto themselves, or state officials and public officials were law unto themselves.
Yes.
So to reiterate that, let's at a personal level, let us start by being law-abiding. Try it could be hard, but let's try to be more law-abiding so that we're also making the work of the cops easier.
Yes.
So then if you've been caught by an offense, and I agree with you, because those are some of the discussions that we've been having within the legal fraternity and with the judiciary.
Yeah.
And there are certain processes that are underway in terms of judicial reforms. One, to address the backlog of cases, because that is then now what will make your case take 5 years, because there's a whole backlog that even the incoming Chief Justice was told has to be a top priority.
Yes.
For her during her tenure. So it's an issue that the judiciary is trying to deal with.
Yes.
So one of the ways to deal with it is establishment of small claims courts, which is something that is still ongoing, so that it's not every case. A chicken, someone stole chicken, they have to go, it has to be pursued all the way to the High Court.
Yes.
So that those ones you're able to dispense with them much faster. So that the larger cases, in terms of the gravity of the crime and the value of money involved, can now be dealt with through other institutions.
Yes.
Now the small claims courts can now deal with other day-to-day.
Yes.
And of course, traffic offences falls under that. And tied to that as well is and a part of judicial reform is digitization of the judiciary, which is a process that is still ongoing.
Yes.
It started way back, if I remember very well, with the former Chief Justice Willie Mutunga, Dr. Willie Mutunga, in terms of digitization of the process, so that you don't have a whole file for one case about a traffic offense, or a whole file about someone slapped the other on the streets. So that it makes processes simpler. It makes processes simpler and faster. And then also a part of that reform is to make justice accessible. And by accessibility includes the amount of legal fees that you're able to pay for a particular case. And then also making legal aid available. So that for the lawyers who you are not able to afford, then you have institutions that are going to offer legal aid to those, especially for the small claims one, or the civil and criminal ones. Small claims, the ones that are now able to handle small claims, and the ones that are now able to give you legal aid. So there's a lot that is happening that citizens can take, upstanding citizens can take advantage of. And also just to encourage and keep being vigilant and ensure that even the institutions are working as they should. But there's a lot happening to strengthen our institutions, and there's a lot happening to ensure easier and better access to justice for all.
Yes. So there's something you mentioned and I want to clarify with you. So the state does not assign you a lawyer if you can't afford one. For
criminal, yes.
You can be assigned a lawyer? What about petty offense?
At that as well. Now, that as well, I believe, because that it's to an extent, the lawyers are expected to take up legal aid. Yeah, lawyers are not legal aid cases. They're pro bono. That's the word.
Pro bono,
Lawyers are expected to take up pro bono cases so that you have a whole bank of or a whole pool, let's say that, of lawyers who are accessible to those now who are unable to pay for.
And you can get up to senior counsel, properly experienced lawyers.
Yes. For those who've made themselves available pro bono, because again, you understand we are in a capitalist system. You're not forced to take up pro bono, but
so you say like
encouraged.
I'm available 1 hour a month. That's
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
I see.
We are not forced to take it up, but you're encouraged.
Yeah.
You're encouraged to take it up.
Okay. I see how actually that works. So at least thank you so much for explaining, the whole process, because I think it also, some of these things are not so clear and the knowledge is not so accessible because there's no one place I can go to hear what you just explained right now. So you finish your Kenya School of Law, you get admitted.
Yes.
Then what next? Did you join a firm?
I joined an organization called International Center for Transitional Justice.
This is the civil...
Yes, this is civil society. International Center for Transitional Justice. And it was a period when now Kenya was transitioning from the 2007
post-election violence.
Post-election violence. Yeah. So then transitional justice, just like we said in simplified terms, is finding peace, justice, and truth in a time of...
More of a reconciliation process?
Yes, yes. Reconciliation, but then it has truth and justice in it. Yeah, and that is now where the processes like the TGRC...
you tell each other the truth.
Yes.
Why did we fight? Why did we kill each other? Number one,
yes.
We have smaller farms than you guys, and you think those are our farms.
Yes.
But the truth, the other side says, okay, no, you're saying these are your farms, but they are actually, to be honest, they are not yours because of A, B, C, D. Then you sit together and say, okay, can we agree now?
Yeah.
This is the way forward.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I can break down the law. Okay. Go ahead.
That's the concept. And then now ensuring that the societies, also giving societies focus in a manner that you have institutions, you strengthen institutions, and where they do not exist, you establish institutions.
Yeah.
One, to prevent
that future. Is Waki report even?
There was a TGRC period, and that was also the period where now we were grappling between the ICC or whether to establish our own special court.
Yes.
So there's the truth, like you're saying. There's the peace aspect. First, we've been in a conflict.
Yes.
We need to promote peace. We need to be peaceful.
Yeah.
Then we need to tell each other the truth about what happened. Those who feel they need to apologize will apologize. Those who need to accept that apology will.
Yeah.
There's justice for those who suffered
post-election violence.
Post-election violence, be it physical, be it mental, be it material, and then there's reconciliation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's no timeline for them. So you can say timeline in temporal processes, but each society is unique. And so it will go through its own unique processes.
Yeah.
So those were some of the things that ICTJ dealt with.
Yes.
At that particular.
As a consultant or just as a
I was
partner?
an intern.
Okay.
Remember, I've just finished, I've just been admitted to the bar, so that's more internship and more or less like my first job.
Okay.
Which was very, very interesting. Exactly what I needed at that particular point, because there's diversity of issues, diversity of people, diversity of groups to deal with, and diversity of emotions to give.
Yeah.
And for me, it was that period that really opened my eyes as to what my country was. Yeah, and we'll get to relate it. We'll get to relate it later as we have the conversation. With the book as to what my country was, what it has been, and where it was heading to.
Yes.
So then I finished my internship at ICTJ. Then I moved.
How long did you spend there? 6 months, 3 months?
About a couple of months.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I moved to an institution called South Consulting. So South Consulting was mandated to monitor the implementation of the Kenya National Dialogue and Reconciliation Accord. So you remember 2007, 2008, we've had the post-election violence.
Yeah.
Then now that is post-violence. We are doing the TGRC issues. Then now one of the outcomes of the peace, justice, and conciliation aspect, or one of the tools rather, is the peace accord that was now signed between the political rivals then.
Yes, the two parties.
The two parties. And that was now what was called the Kenya National Dialogue and Conciliation Accord. And within it had 4 agenda items. One was constitutional reforms. The other was institutional reforms. The other was immediate cessation of hostilities, which now required that both parties calm your troops so that we can actually sit down and talk. And then, so now South Consulting was now mandated to monitor the implementation of this peace accord. And that was also significant for me because, and very timely, because then I got to see things unfold as they were. When you talk about police reforms, where were we and where are we heading? What laws needed to be passed? What are the value systems? And it is during this period that, for instance, since we are talking about police reforms, was when now things like the training curriculum were changed.
There was no curriculum before?
Before it was, but then now including things like human rights training.
So people don't scroll and crawl on Maram Road, roll on the thorns and what. But I still, they think do that, no?
There are other aspects to it.
Okay.
But piecemeal, because remember again, if we just go back to it, the whole reason why the history of our police and policing systems, they weren't created for the citizen. Right from the start, they were created to serve the authorities that be. So that you have a police structure or a law and order structure that is meant to oppress. And that is why before it was called police force. But then now these reforms that were undertaken at that particular time, now it was changed into police service. So that it is more citizen-oriented than authority-oriented. So there you have even recruitment, the things we see these days about the IG, deputy IG, change of structures, and you have making it even the recruitment of police officers, making it very, very competitive. It is during that period again we established the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, so that even the police themselves have mechanisms where they can always go and report cases. So that those were part of the reforms. You have police, you have land reforms that brought about the national establishment of the National Land Commission. A lot, even within the judiciary. But the ultimate one was now constitutional reforms. Yes. That now would encompass all these changes that we wished for as a country. Because we are coming from a state where the executive, if I could use that word, and the rich and the powerful took the law to their own hands. Where a president can appoint a chief justice at will and can dismiss you at will. Everything, most of the things were for sale. And there was a lot of discrimination, there was a lot of disenfranchisement, which now led to the cycles of violence that we are seeing. So I believe beyond all these reforms that took place based on the peace accord then, the Constitution was now a very good basis for moving the country forward. Yes? And that was South Consulting, I think, for about 2 years for me. Then, as fate will have it, I then moved to Katiba Institute.
As an intern or
now I was at full-time, because now as at South Consulting I was doing research now based on the monitoring, and as time went by, as fate will have it again, I was given Agenda 4, and Agenda 4 was the largest, where you had all these institutes.
Alone or with?
It was a team. It was a team, but then now I was more or less in charge of
that is Katiba Institute,
not Katiba, South Consulting. So then I finished with South Consulting. I moved to Katiba Institute. Now Katiba Institute, again, right from the word, is focused now on the Constitution, because it was during that, now we'd already passed the Constitution.
That is post 2010.
Post 2010.
Okay.
So we passed the constitution. Now we are now focusing on monitoring the implementation of the constitution now. Which laws need to be developed to actualize it? What decisions are being made? What decisions are being made to improve it? Are there instances where the constitution is being violated or likely to be violated? So it's more or less like a watchdog for the constitution and a watchdog for the rule of law within the country.
Yeah.
So during that time, I did a lot of civic education and public engagement. And going around and going about the country with my colleagues to do civic education on the Constitution. In all forms. I'd say written, vocal, oral. And I had the opportunity to work with great minds, Professor Yash Gai, Professor Jill Gai, and Mr. Waikwa Wanyoike, all who are very enthusiastic about the implementation of the Constitution. And Kenya moving forward and law and democracy and human rights. So that was Katiba Institute. Then shortly thereafter, I had that.
Wait a minute. So did you apply and get accepted, interview, or just they saw your work from the previous engagement and then they say, I think you can deliver?
They were starting out. They were just starting out at that particular point.
Okay.
And then a friend of mine who was at the judiciary at that particular time learned that there was an opening and was in between jobs. I just left South Consulting at that time. And so she calls me and says, there's a job opportunity at Katiba Institute, apply. So then I applied, then went for the interview. And as fate would have it, I got it, and that marked a very long journey, as you will get to understand, to date in terms of
sounds interesting. It's about to get down. Guys, get ready, huh?
Then I finished with Katiba Institute. My contract comes to an end. Then I have a short stint with Article 19 as a consultant, and Article 19 is concerned with access to information. Yes.
Please don't get lawyer.
No,
all of a sudden.
I'm not going to get lawyer.
Some of these things we hear them and you're like, okay, those are lawyers speaking. Article 19. Article 16. I don't know.
Article 19 is the name of the institution.
Yes.
Article 19 is the name of the institution.
It's an institution known as Article 19.
Known as Article
Not the Constitution itself.
Not the Constitution itself.
I was like, okay, now it's getting real here.
It's an institution called Article 19. So then they're focused on enhancing access to information, part of their mandate. And so here was consultancy, and I had now the opportunity during this period to participate in the development of the access to information law, which, given the discussion we are having, the extent to which how the mechanisms of of accessing information, how from the government side, if I could use that example, where you are supposed to be proactive with information.
The government should be providing information.
Where you are proactive with information, and you are making the processes of getting information easier. You are digitizing where you need to, so that you don't go to look for your records at the Ministry of Lands, and there's this whole cabinet that will take 8 hours for your file, or even your file. It can't be found.
You have to open someone's eyes. You can't see it until they have tea.
And then also for what you can do in the event that information has not been made public, and even now informing the public on what kind of information they cannot get from particular sources. For instance, the government is not going to make public some issues to do with the defense, was that will
internal security
stuff could make it vulnerable to
attack
and so that's so that is information that you are not able to access. But then now there's information that you're able to access. So just creating that balance in a manner that you're institutionalizing issues of access to information, protecting rights and promoting freedoms as well. So that was also a really good space for me in terms of just advancing issues, governance and democracy.
Yeah.
And that stint came to an end. And then I joined...
How long did that take you?
I think a couple of months as well. And then...
Out of curiosity, what does Article 19 say in the Constitution?
Our Constitution?
Yes, our Constitution.
I don't know it off.
You don't have Article 19? Or
We
you
do.
don't... Okay, you don't know.
I don't know it offhand at the
Okay.
moment.
Is
You'd like
it
to
here?
check?
We can check. I'm curious, like, why would someone call themselves Article 19?
Now that will be a homework. That will be a homework because it's not Article 19 of our Constitution. It's Article 19 of an international document.
Which is?
Homework.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now when you tell me international document, that's a whole loaded...
which is homework. So you go check Article 19 of an international document that now informs the establishment of the Article 19 institution and its relation, and it's a global institution. It's not just a Kenyan institution, and informs now matters access to information. Yes.
Okay, I see. So so you're finished with the Article 19.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's been brought, but we've still said homework.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I see.
But it's still homework.
Yeah.
But just to know, it's Article 19 of an international document. And the institution is global, not Kenyan.
Okay.
And it focuses on access to information
Access
and
to
protection
information,
of...
Is this part of open data? Because I think there was a time government opened its ICT through ICT authority, and you could access health information about the hospitals. There was now land, there was a counties, population, census, whatnot. And actually, as developers or software engineers, we could actually build robust applications that actually reflected the real situation on the ground. Though it was not that updated, so you could get a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year hold kind of information, but that's still good to work with.
Yeah, creating those synergies between departments, so that ideal situations like and I know this is controversial for some, like Huduma services, so that you don't have one
Huduma number or Huduma centers.
That. The number and the services and...
Are you private to the Huduma number? Because that's something I think I'll be curious to know. What is it? What is
that?
it?
That
what
one
was it for?
I'll let you invite the institutions and the people.
Don't be government around these things.
I'll let you invite the people and the institutions concerned. But it's basically just harmonizing processes and harmonizing documentation, so that, like it is in other jurisdictions, you have one document and one number that you can use for everything else.
But how difficult is that until you spend a couple of billions to implement it?
I have no idea.
As
that
an engineer, I can tell you,
we'll leave for the owners of the information.
I can tell you without fear of contradiction. It's not that complicated. And I think also we need to be intentional about how we implement solutions, because I've been asking myself, if we had, accountable of our population from day one, when they come to this world, we would be far ahead, because we're able to know how many people are graduating, how smart they are, place them in the right courses, treat them when they're sick, when there is hunger. We're able to manage a lot of things. But I think some of these things are systemic kind of problems that are artificial to an extent, for certain reason, for whatever reason, because I hear everything is a business in a capitalist country, right? So I'll leave it to that, but definitely I think there is more that can be done. And I'm excited to say this right now, because I believe that the young guys who are coming up, they need to understand this, because the more wealth we create together, the more access we have. Even we don't need to steal, we don't need to be corrupt. We can have enough for everyone. And it's evident. It has been, approved in Sweden, countries like Sweden, I think also places like Japan, they have proved this to be really something practical that can be done. And it's just understanding that we are building this country for us.
Yeah.
No one else, for us. Even the decision that we make, it's for us. Even the policing you're saying. Once someone becomes a police and they have corrupted their way to become a police, they go and get brutal training. Of course, they feel like, everyone is an enemy. Beside my trainer, because of course, maybe I'm the enemy to the trainer or something. So they will come here with a lot of, anguish and trauma, and they will load that in you. I know you have heard about recruits or what we normally call kurutu. When they land on you, you don't like the experience. I don't know if that changed, but those are the guys who are.
It is changing because those are part of the reforms that are being implemented post, or rather within the new dispensation.
Yeah.
So that you also professionalize the service.
Yeah.
It's not only those who are considered not to have done well in KCPE that now they are.
So can you go for a police recruit with an A and get accepted straight up?
Exactly.
Right now,
yes,
straight
you
up.
Can. Because remember, we have
but you have to
police
run.
doctors.
You have to run for a few kilometers.
We have doctors within the service. We have lawyers within the service. We have all these people within the service. So then also that debunks the perception that because that is all that the media shows.
Yes.
Yeah, that is all the media.
It's sweet. It's juicy.
It's juicy.
Yeah.
That is what we are shown how. Their mouths and their teeth are being checked, and the way they're running. And yet,
Sandra, let's be honest. Are you telling me if I'm missing like 5 tooth in my mouth, I'll get into police?
Of course you can't, because for each, of course you can, because for each profession and for each sector, they have their entry level requirements. There are things they require for you to be admitted.
Yes.
But what we are saying is then we should demystify or debunk the perceptions around the policing, and particularly now in terms of recruitment, and appreciate the changes that have been made and are still being made to professionalize the service and to make it more citizen oriented, so that now, as we are mentioning, it is not only those with ease, or no, that they are considered not to have done well, that are being taken in for service. You have now people are encouraged. If you have a degree, then you are able to join the service.
But as a professional, not as a recruit.
As a professional.
Yes,
but
that's totally different, because
I understand. But then the perception is what needs to be debunked is that it is only failures who get recruited to become cops.
Yes.
Which should not be the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. No, I mean, even with that aspect, we can ask maybe a pertinent question here, like how many people in a year who get as professionals versus those who get as recruits from the ground up. And you'll see actually those numbers will tell you something different. Also here before, maybe I think that is changing very fast, that at least I have attested to it. Like when you got in there, maybe some of them got with a B or a C plus, and they wanted to pursue education. So they assume that these guys are coming in to use the resources of the government and time to pursue the education, so that actually they can leave the force at some point. So that one I think is encouraged even right now, but you have a proper agreement whereby you use even that knowledge in the force to improve it, because now that is acceptable. And I think it was obvious, because if guys who are there and they are senior officers and they were not really well educated, they were, insecure about the whole process. So I think that's a good thing. Of course, we appreciate that. And I hope we can change to where now this becomes full-fledged, professional, that people are proud of, they're well paid, they're well appreciated. They're thought, because even policing, even you think even the advanced countries like United States of America, they're not well taken care of in terms of the public perception towards police, especially the people of color. They don't like police, because once you're profiled, it might determine if you're going to be alive or dead.
Yeah.
So I think it's a whole process that we need to understand properly, and even learn from the people who are more advanced than us. Not to make the same systematic issues.
Problems,
Yeah.
And that is what I like about the conversations we're having, because the issues we're dealing with now, they're not things that started 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We are dealing with them from even before independence.
Colonial
times. So that is why reform is not going to be a 1 week or a 1 year or a one regime thing.
True.
It requires for us to stay the course and to be dedicated to that course.
And celebrate small wins.
And celebrate the small wins, because we've come a long way. And it is for us to safeguard those gains in a manner that is sustainable and beneficial to the next generation. And it is across board.
Yes.
It is socially, it is politically, it is culturally, it is also economically. Have I said economically? It cuts across board.
Yes.
Yeah? We cannot change 50 or 40 years ills, wave a magic wand, and change that within 5 years.
Yes.
It just can't work.
Yeah.